Setting the context for the next presentation, better smartphone penetration supported by low cost of data is paving way for a revolution in learning spaces similar to what it has done for social networks. Learning delivered across higher education institutions is becoming increasingly online, blended, multimodal, mobile and virtualized. And hence it makes education geography agnostic. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Vipendra Singh, Senior Vice President, Schoolguru EduServe, to help us interpret the online programs regulations by the UGC.
Thank you very much. One, this is a post-lunch session, so after a sumptuous lunch, usually the attention span is much lesser. B, as compared to the speakers in the first session, the very knowledgeable, all the dignitaries, my being here and talking about the regulatory aspect, I don't know how much of it is going to be of interest to you. However, there is a point that we need to know about it. And why do we know, do we need to know? Is that based on my own personal experience, I can say that a lot of times, very important portions of any important regulation, they are overlooked, they are not understood properly. There is still a case in many cases where this regulation specifically is often confused with the regulation for CBCA system. People think that this is applicable to only 20% and not 100%. Therefore, and this being such a transformational opportunity for Indian higher education system, this is for the first time India is going to experiment with a completely online degree programs. Till now we were running MOOCs, we were giving 20% credits from acquired through MOOCs, through under CBCA system, and some of the universities had already started some certificate and diploma level programs in a completely online mode. However, this is for the first time our country is going to experiment with this. And just now I was talking to sir that this is such a great opportunity to bridge that gap of India being the net importer of higher education services. We send more number of students every year to other countries rather than we recruiting from those countries. In fact, we are not able to even tap that diaspora which exists in so many countries. We are talking to one university in Punjab, and as I was just discussing that there are few states in India where the natural inclination of those universities or that diaspora is towards their home state. Any university in Punjab would typically like to tap the audience that exists in countries like Canada and UK, or for example any university in Kerala would like to tap the audience that exists in Middle East. Universities in West Bengal would like to tap the audience not just from Bangladesh but also from Southeast Asia. So there are such opportunities exist which are presented under this regulation. Therefore, it is very, very important that we understand the provisions. It is effective from July 2018. And it is applicable to all those universities which come under the definition of HEI given both under the ODL regulation as well as the regulation for online programs. And where you have those UGC provisions where you have certain sections under which different kind of universities are created, and it is applicable to all of them. This regulation is for the first time is going to be applicable to degree programs also, not just for certificate and diploma level programs. However, there is a catch. The catch is that only those degree level programs which do not have a laboratory or a practical component can be offered in a completely online mode. And the entire duration is going to be online, the exam is going to be online, and even though right now there is this clarity in the regulation is not there about the territorial jurisdiction, but it is implied that because you don't need a network of study centers, therefore the provision of territorial jurisdiction doesn't apply, and by virtue of it being the regulation for online programs, you would anyways assume that there is no territorial jurisdiction, even if it is not very expressly written in the regulation itself. Programs in certain subjects like engineering and medicine and physiotherapy and all those programs, all those streams which require any laboratory or practical sessions are not included for now. But as we are envisaging that as the technology improves, as you have more and more credible solutions coming from private sector for virtual labs and things like that, and Ashwini's company is doing a great job in that sense also, I think there would be more and more number of programs which can be included in a completely online mode of delivery. Right now there is an entry bar that has been created, and there has been debate about whether this entry bar should remain, should not remain. And that is the reason why this right now the approval process has got delayed. The regulation came in July 2018, and right now in the month of February 2019, we are still just processing, inviting the application and processing them. Why this delay has happened? One of the reasons was that there was a sense that this regulation was viewed as a medium to improve the GERs and taking them to 30% level, which are currently around 25%. Because there is no capacity crunch once you go online, and the quality can also be ensured in a much better way, because right now if you compare this with the model in which ODL functions, where you are dependent on the faculty provided by your PCP centers or your study centers, while in this the university's own faculty directly would be able to interact with the student. Therefore, you have much better control over the quality. So this thought was there that whether this 3.26 and NIRF ranking of within 100 should remain, should go, or should we reduce it. Eventually, this has been kept as it is for the moment, and there are about 60 to 80 universities which would be eligible. How many of them would apply this year? How many of them would consider an application next year is remaining to be seen. We will come to know on 31st of March, which is the last date, and it is very important to note that before 31st of March, any university which meets the criteria and any university which is desirous of offering online programs, they have to show their preparedness, readiness to the regulators, saying that we, in terms of technology, in terms of our ability to reach out to the student through online mediums, in terms of our content preparation, in terms of our ability to support the students day in and day out, in terms of generating analytics, analyzing them, taking corrective actions, and therefore improving the programs, all these facilities already exist. Once you are sure that our ability is 100% complete in terms of not only just the regulatory part of it, but also in terms of going beyond that and delivering quality programs in a completely online mode, I think that is the time when you will be able to submit your applications. And of course, 31st being the cutoff date, one has to do all this before that. Open universities, since currently the NAC framework is still under process and it is not been finalized and it's not been notified. Therefore, for now, open universities are exempted, and that's a great opportunity for open universities, I would say. As I said, that 31st being the last date, and I'm stressing on that because many of you belong to those universities who are right now eligible, but may not be thinking about it. I think it is high time. Why I'm saying this, that by July, August, you would have a situation in this country where those boundaries of territorial jurisdiction, they no more remain there. And within your territory, right now you had, for example, here you had, let's say, NSOU and maybe IGNOU, right? But once the online approvals are given to certain universities would be free to enroll students from your territory, would like to differentiate themselves, and there would be a kind of competition which will come into place, which currently doesn't exist. Therefore, it is very, very important on those of you which are still thinking about it and not taking any decision. I think it is high time that you take a decision and apply for this year, because once the market gets flooded, the students, there would be multiple choices available to the student. From a student point of view, it's going to be a great situation. But from the university's point of view, you also have to look at how do you actually raise your levels and come up to a level where you are able to not only sustain your enrollment numbers but also increase them. The programs that can be offered, one of the conditions is that either that university is already running those programs in a regular mode or in distance education mode. And why it is that the idea is not to reinvent the wheel. The idea is that your academic council, your board of studies, your examination committees, everybody has worked on that curriculum, worked on that content for a certain number of years, and you have kind of perfected that based on your own experiences. So why to just give you an approval which currently the program that you are not running? Of course, there would be a situation when you will be able to apply for newer programs, but for now the situation is that only those programs which you are already running in regular or distance education mode, you will be able to offer, subject to other conditions like they should not have any laboratory or practical components. There is a defined process. The recognition is going to be given for 2 years, and based on my knowledge, there has to be a very strict auditing and system wherein you are expected to actually keep collecting a lot of data based on the student usage and based on the learning patterns and based on their likes and dislikes, whether a particular lecture which has been delivered in a completely online mode met the student's expectation or not. How do you retire in terms of your assessment also? How do you retire a question from the entire question bank and things like that? Those kind of analytics would be expected to be collected, analyzed, and corrective actions will be expected to be taken. This is one of the important aspects in ODL education also, unlike formal education, where you are able to enroll the students in 2 sessions. Most of the face-to-face classroom sessions, typically they enroll the students only once a year. In ODL, even in the ODL regulation of 2017 as well as in this regulation, 2 sessions have been envisaged. And how universities can take advantage is that it practically becomes like a round-the-year admission cycle where you keep on collecting the interest level of the student, you keep on generating inquiries, keep them with you, and because once you go online, your method to reach out to the student also need to change. You need to look at it differently. For example, currently all these universities, you invite applications through either a newspaper advertisement or through the network of your study centers. Once you go online and you go, there are no territories, and you want to reach out to the students from across the world, then taking the help of digital mediums should become a preferred choice. Then you need to keep on talking to the student on a round-the-year basis. You need to keep on updating the prospective students about what university is doing, what are the benefits of a certain program, where does your strengths lies, etc., etc. So therefore, it would become like round the year you run your campaign, you keep on collecting inquiries, and when is the time for actually converting those inquiries into admissions for you? There is a particular time period as decided by UGC. As right now, for example, they are giving these 2 months time period for completing your admission formalities. This would become an arrangement like this, as I said. In terms of infrastructure and your academic requirements, it is expected in certain cases where a dual mode university is already running a directorate of distance education separately. Not in the case of open universities, because open universities are meant for distance education any which ways. But in the case of dual mode universities where the distance education is delivered through a dedicated center, it is envisaged that there would be a dedicated center for online programs also. A separate director, separate teaching staff, separate technical staff, and they have given a list as to you need to have these kind of technical people also meeting these kind of qualifications. So therefore, it has to be run as a separate division within the university altogether and not merged with any of the existing directorate or any of the existing division, because the requirements are completely different here as compared to the earlier requirements. It has to be headed by a professor level person who would be designated as a director and separate administrative staff. One of the important points is that Now, you might be having your own arrangements in terms of technology infrastructure, your learning management system, your student management system, admission management system, etc. But simultaneously, as you need to also have access to SWAYAM also, because SWAYAM being UGC's own initiative, and there are a lot of programs which are available on SWAYAM which can be also used for converting at least 20% credits into your online program. I think that provision is also one of the requirement. However, it doesn't say that for delivering 100% program you need to depend only on SWAYAM. It doesn't say this. That SWAYAM's access is important, but at the same time any other system, a university's own system, if it is able to meet the requirement, then that system is also acceptable to the university, to UGC. Four quadrants approach, as we keep on talking. This is very, very important, and this is universally accepted approach, wherein you have the audio videos at one side, you have examinations at one side, you have open resources at one side, and you have discussion forums at one side. So typically this four quadrant approach one has to take to combine all these four different aspects when it comes to delivering the content in an online mode. It is not just your audio video content or textual content alone. You need to facilitate the students through ways of peer learning. So peer-to-peer learning is delivered through your discussion forums. The inbuilt quizzes and assignments and practice tests are also very important, so that you keep a tab on the students' learning patterns and whether the student is actually learning anything. One of the advantages that technology gives you, that these things are not possible in a classroom environment. Let me tell you, when I am talking to you, let's say I can look into your eyes and I can see whether you are attentive or not, and I can also see which of the student is actually playing with the mobile phone and which of the student is actually doing something else or in some other world. In an online mode, because you don't have that that face-to-face interaction which is not there, but you have certain added advantages, because whether the student has started watching the video and what was the level when the student stopped it, the data is available with you, and you can always reach out to the student saying that, hey, you started this lecture but after 10 minutes you stopped, can we help you? Second thing is that the student, those quizzes are inbuilt. So you know whether after the lecture the student has actually learned anything or not. And on the basis of the results of that quiz, you can reach out to the student again that, do you want some additional inputs on this topic? And these things are possible, and you can build in with those additional resources also with a particular lecture. So technology provides you all these opportunities, which in a face-to-face environment sometimes we feel that we are constrained by the capacity of that lecturer to remain available to the student even beyond the classroom environment. Capturing Aadhaar right now is one of the requirements, because the Aadhaar has been chosen as one of the identity to authenticate the students, and for foreign student it is a passport number. Therefore, any platform which the university is going to use has to be compatible with Aadhaar. The Aadhaar number has to be recorded at the time of admission, at the time of examination also there has to be an Aadhaar based authentication. Even at the time of learning also there would be intermittent authentication required during the time of learning also, when the student would be required to again and again say that it is the same student who has taken the admission and not someone else. It is just to protect the misrepresentation or malpractices in the entire system of learning, or whether it is entire the system of the examination. Ability to conduct online examination in a proctored environment, very, very important. It can be a combination of a face-to-face, a personal proctoring, or it can be a technology-enabled proctoring also, because right now you have such beautiful systems available of remote proctoring where the student, in case they want to take the help of any malpractice, can be prevented remotely also, and you can just stop the exam in between, and you can also alert the local proctor also in case a local proctor is available. Sufficient infrastructure for counseling, student performance tracking and student support, very, very important, because even in our current system, the student support is one area which is neglected. With the help of technology, a call center like mechanism where the student can reach out to the university any time of the day, any time of the night, and those queries, in case they are able, the call center people are able to solve them at that very time, fine. If they are not able, then they escalate or they collect those inquiries and then put them to the university authorities. That kind of system has to be developed and put in place, so that in an online distributed environment where the student may be working in a different time zone also, so those students are able to put across their queries, get the resolutions from the university. A lot of focus is there on capability building and training of the university staff. I think this is one area, because it is envisaged that our current method of delivery of learning to the student is going to be completely different from what is envisaged in the online mode, and therefore existing faculty need to be retrained, existing staff need to be retrained, those inputs are required to be given, and the university has to make sure that all those people who are working under this arrangement are adequately trained, and a training calendar is there, and annually refresher trainings are conducted for this staff, because this technology is changing at a much faster pace than earlier. Everything is now much more fluid as it used to be earlier, and therefore the university teachers and staff and everybody has to keep pace with the changing environment, changing technology, changing requirement, changing students' expectations. And therefore continuous collection, analysis and reporting of data, which is very, very important. Now they are expecting, even in the ODL regulation, they say that a lot of data has to be collected, analyzed, and those reports have to be published on the university websites. This is one of the requirements in the online space also. In online space, this is much more easy, because then the entire thing being technology driven, you have access to this entire data. The only thing is that you need to generate those reporting templates and collect that data, analyze, and there has to be a way of putting it on your website so that it is available not just for regulators but also for other stakeholders all the time. And 31st is the last date, as I said. This is very, very important. These are some of the things which are part of the regulation, and there are a lot of other things which are not part of the regulation but are implied to have. For example, your focus on the student services, which are not written right now anywhere, but ultimately these are the things which will differentiate universities from others, where you are able to, how best you are able to harness the power of technology for improving the quality of learning, is something that would differentiate the universities, which are not part of the regulation but is going to play a very, very important role in the time to come. Thank you very much. I hope I have not disturbed your sleep. So the people, I can see that they are dozing off. Yeah. In case any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Actually, Annexure 1 is very important for us, because from our past experience in UGC's fiasco last time, all over the country must be doing.
Every university, yes.
Every university faced this problem.
Yeah.
So we are having right now 3 teachers per subject. Right?
Yes,
per
yes,
department.
yes.
That is the minimum.
Yes.
In addition to this, we have to have 1 teacher to be actually dedicated for this particular course.
Yeah.
And 1 teacher out of the 3 existing teachers has to liaise between the 2.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And in addition to this, we have to have 1 director, 1 deputy director, and 1 assistant director. Right?
Yes, yes.
And adequate non-teaching staff.
Deputy registrar and assistant registrars. Yes.
In addition to this, again, all these lists and data capturing.
You need to have the studio staff, the technical staff for for content creation and things like that.
So
yes.
These are the things, actually, we want to have a comprehensive view
Yeah.
of our involvement,
Yeah.
university-wise. Maybe for our university, I'm not talking about my university especially, because we have sufficient teaching staff, as I told you.
Yes.
But other universities may have
Challenge.
difficulty.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the main issue.
Yes. Yes.
Main issue.
Correct.
And the teaching positions to be created are to be filled up by persons who are adequately trained. In
Yes.
this online.
Yes. There's a lot of focus on training.
Because they won't be getting time to learn.
Yes.
They will be performer from day one.
Yes. Yes.
That is
yes.
the main problem.
Yes.
Anyway, what is your view on this?
So my view as there are two views. One is that if I look at purely as an academician at it, and if I look at this thing as someone coming from Schoolguru, numbers are sacrosanct. Those numbers have to be, those positions have to be filled. When it comes to developing the capability, that takes time. I mean, the people who you hire on the basis of their qualification, the current qualification criteria and pay scales and all those things that come into picture, there is a selection mechanism that the university has to follow. So the kind of people you get may not be immediately available in the market. But because there is a training mechanism which is there, as a school guru, what we can do in developing that capability, that we can get into the faculty level training also. And this we have been envisaging for quite some time. Between me and Shantanu, we have been discussing that we need to get into faculty training modules also. Because going forward, in a completely online environment, this situation is not going to arise only with your university. Every university is going to face this challenge when the people are available, good quality people, subject matter expert, great credentials in terms of academics. But when it comes to delivering learning in a completely technology-enabled environment, you have to behave differently, think differently, act differently. Therefore, that kind of change has to come through various training interventions, and this is where probably Schoolguru will also have to help the universities.
Thank you, Mr. Vipendra. So, the government has opened up a sea of opportunities both for the students and the universities. It's on the universities and the students how they actually make use of this opportunity.